throughout global conflict. Today we're hitting standard 4.3.2, analyze the multiple causal factors of conflicts in world history. And today, you will analyze how globalism and nationalism influenced United States foreign policy and why we did not join the League of Nations. So we're going to go on a fun little journey today through history and why and what the League of Nations entailed. But first, we're going to start off with those two terms I kind of hinted at there with globalism and nationalism. This right here, this image right here, I think is a perfect example of the two. You have globalism, you have this awesome globe shape, and then you got all the nations' flags covering that whole globe. Now let's break down those words. You have global. What do you think? Any volunteers? What do you think when you hear the word global? Just shout them out. Or you don't raise hands. Worldwide. And the globe. You get the whole thing. And what about nation or national? I guess. What comes to mind when you hear that word? Countries. Individuals. Anything else? Deadly? Identity. That's a great. Is it deadly? Well, we will get into how it can be deadly, but identity. That's a great point there. So now that we got that, now what do those two words have in common? Sorry, the globalism. I had it right. Globalism and nationalism. Like when you look at the morphology of the word, what do they have in common? Ism, right? They both have the ism. So, ism kind of has a bunch of different meanings. Sorry, let me make sure this is. I lied. Go back here. Question. I have a quick question for you guys. Do you see the question on there?
Yes.
Cool. See, this is why I'm new because it looks. I would not have this showing when I do it with you guys, but so if you go ahead and answer that question, it has a couple different examples of what definition of an ism is. Now, when we're looking at foreign policy, based off those four answers, which ism do you think best impacts globalism and nationalism, or definition best fits with that?
Repeat that?
So based off of, so ism, listed are a bunch of different definitions of the morphology, or the syntax of ism. So based off of what we'll say we talked about in the past, so we're talking about foreign policy, and what do you think out of those? And I'm not expecting everybody to get exact right answer, and there could even be a couple right answers. So I'm just curious what you guys will think here. Give me a thumbs up when you, actually I can look at this and see who's posted. JK. I'll give you 5 more seconds. 3, 2, 1. Let's look what we got here. Share. So you can see a lot of people chose B, which was a principle of belief, which like socialism. Exactly. So now we have, I would agree with you guys based off of that definition that it's kind of a political ideal. It's a movement. It's what is important to a person. So now we have global, which you guys said means like the whole globe, the whole world, and ism is what's important to you. Right? So now let's look at the actual definition, the Webster definition of globalism. I'd say we can pretty easily come to is a national policy treating the whole world as a proper sphere for the political influence. That means so it's important to yourself that the whole world matters, right? It's not just an individual, your beliefs, it's the whole world is important. So with that in mind, if you guys would go ahead, and I asked for an example of the United States, like where you can see an emphasis of globalism, but I'm gonna go ahead and let you guys pick like anything you can think of, honestly, the whole world, where is an example of globalism. I'm gonna lead you guys off with an example of myself, and my sister right now, she's actually in the Peace Corps in Peru. So I think that's an example of somebody or something, the Peace Corps, in which they're more worried about the world as a whole rather than their individual self. So I believe you guys can post on there. Does anybody have any questions about globalism before you go ahead and post any comments? Are you guys able to post on there? Cool. Oh, clear. The Iran nuclear program. The UN's a good one, I think, of right away. The whole idea behind them is global peace right now. dragon. That looks like very peaceful there. EPA. Find it post. Cool, some cool ones. Google. That is interesting. Carissa, why would you say Apple, Google, Amazon, and Hollywood?
Because a lot of American products are used all over the world.
Yeah. So it's a product shared throughout the globe. I think Google, they try to, they said the product is used everywhere.
And think about movies. How many movies are made in the U.S. as compared to like Canada or like, I don't know.
That's true. That's an interesting concept actually. I hadn't even thought of. This is one of the Paris Climate Act. I think was something I thought of a lot. Is a globalism effort towards, I guess, literally keeping the world healthy. We talk about global warming. That's your own personal belief, but I think the whole idea of the Paris Climate Act was to protect the world as a whole, rather than individuals. So that's kind of the globalism idea. It's again taking the whole world into. Sorry, I went too far. I think. Nope. The whole world into effect. So with the idea of globalism as taking the whole world as what's important to you, and with the national is something like your nation or your individual beliefs. I want you guys to go ahead and find a partner. Specifically, if anybody doesn't have a computer, team up with them. If not, go with your shoulder buddy. And I want you guys to come up with a definition of nationalism on your own. So based off of kind of what we've gone over so far, of what nation means and what we've decided ism as an important movement or something that's meaningful to you. So I'm going to go ahead and just walk around. You guys are brainstorming.
Oh, that's not high school.
You could do like,
Couldn't be patriotic feeling, almost like a patriotic state of mind.
Similar belief system, I guess. Let me know if mine sounds right here. Finish that. And act. Belief that each nation has its unique. What do you think about that?
yeah.
It's okay.
And I also thought
That post I'm not going to be like ridiculed. Okay, good.
I should have hashtag God bless America.
I did. What's this? Write a definition.
You like that?
No.
kind of get a
What do you just
thumbs
like?
up from those that have their answer posted, and a thumbs down for those who don't. Okay, I've seen a lot of thumbs up. I'm gonna take a peek through the answer. Ooh, Big Sherm. I want to share this one. Is the patriotic state of mind. Why'd you say that? What made you think of patriotism?
Nationalism, it's kind of like when you think of your own nation, right? And there's patriotic feelings. It's kind of like nationalism is all about your own nation. So
Cool. We are definitely going to touch on that later, so I'm glad you brought it up. Ooh, this one's I like this one too. The Dragon Master, again, you're killing it today. The identity of the local culture created by beliefs, they are valued and united. Who's Dragon Master? Cool. Tell me more. I like this idea. So what brought you to the value united?
Well, I think of that macro concept where it's the big things that the community values that unites them together and they're prideful. So, it shows itself through nationalism.
Cool. Once again, we're hitting that pride. We're talking patriotic. So let's now look at what the Webster Dictionary has as a definition of nationalism. Somebody want to go ahead and read this aloud? I feel like I've done plenty of talking. Joan, I'd love to hear you read this aloud for me.
Loyalty and devotion to a nation, especially a sense of national consciousness, consciousness, 1C, exalting one nation above all others and placing primary emphasis on promotion of its culture and interests as opposed to those of other nations or supranational groups.
Nailed it. Cool. So there's definitely a few things in there which I saw in your answers. I know culture you brought upon, the culture, emphasis on promotion. I think that's kind of the emphasis, like patriotism. but what stands out here to you that none of us really touched on?
I touched on it, but putting your nation above all others, like
Right.
thinking your is the best.
I did not read through it, but yes, I think that is where nationalism really separates itself from patriotism. You know, there's pride. There is, when we are America, we are patriotic, aren't we? We are proud to be American. But what's nationalism is that thought and idea that we are superior, if you would say. It's taking almost one step farther than just being proud of me. I'm not only proud of myself, but I know I'm better than all of you. And that's an interesting part. So now keep that in mind as we go farther here, as we finish World War I. Let's do this device only. And now, what time am I at, by the way?
You're 10:48.
Okay, I'm just going to stop there because we're going to go ahead and next watch a video. I'll just explain what was going to happen next. A video kind of touching on end of World War I and talking about Woodrow Wilson and his 14-point plan. And then the lesson for the day was going to be analyzing Woodrow Wilson's speech to the Senate about joining the League of Nations, why it was important to kind of unite the world after such a travesty of World War I. And the video really talks about how never has the world been so together after such a terrible, horrible event. I mean, World War I was the first war, the World War. And then Lodge here was one of the members of Senate who was he was very against the idea of joining the League of Nations. He wanted to go back to what the USA had always been done, which is the form of isolationism, which we will also talk about later, and the idea of, you know, we're doing pretty well on our own, so why should we split up and kind of, you know, take on that globalistic ideal in helping the world? Like, we're USA, everybody wants to be us. So that video kind of touched on those two things, and we're going to analyze the two speeches and have the students kind of look for evidence of nationalism, globalism in the two speeches. And that was my spiel. Woo.